So you have a Venus flytrap that you think needs to be repotted. Well, as you can tell, I also have one that does need to be repotted. So let me show you how it's done. So this is my Venus flytrap. This is a typical Venus flytrap. I got this from a Home Depot like you would most of them. And as you can tell, this tiny little pot is very, very full. There's like 7 to 10 plants in here, maybe more, maybe less, but we will find out when we actually unpot this guy. Unpotting Venus flytraps and repotting them is a very, very simple thing to do. So yeah, let me show you how it's done. Now the thing about this little pot here is that, as I said, it's from the Home Depot. These guys need very, very specific soils. So we are not actually sure if the soil inside of this pot is actually the right type of soil for the Venus flytraps. So I guess when we unpot it, we will check up on the soil, because as some of you guys may know, Venus flytraps need to be in peat and perlite. If they are not in peat and perlite, more often than not, the plant will die, especially if the soil mixture isn't one that really holds water and is nutrient deficient. So let's unpot this guy. I'll show you how to repot them, and let's see how many plants we got, and let's see if the soil is any good for this plant. And here is our Venus flytrap that we will be repotting. Now, I'm not sure if you can see it, but over here we have a bucket full of the right soil. As I said, it's peat and perlite. It's a ratio of 1:1, and that is what these guys really need. Same in these pots, because I'm just going to reuse this soil because there were tiny plants in here, but they died out. And it's not a big issue, though, just some sun juice that I replanted ages ago. I also have some extra pots over here, some different sizes. The small Venus flytraps will be in these smaller pots, and then when they grow up, I will sell them to you guys if you want. And the bigger ones are going to be for the bigger ones that I'll keep for myself, so that they can continue dividing and continue having more plants for you guys. So this is going to be the part where we figure out what type of soil is actually inside of this pot here. What soil do these people have their plants growing in? Now, the way to get the Venus flytrap out of the pot is very, very simple. You're just going to squeeze around the pot, go around like this, and then drop it into your hand. What you could do, if it's a plant that stands upright, you just hold it around it so you can get the soil. Or if it is not as densely packed as this, you just put your fingers on different parts of the soil like that, turn it upside down, and just hold it in your hand like this. So it's going to be very difficult for us to actually do one of those 3 methods with this plant, because it is so compact, so short. So what I will have to do is just let it fall into the palm of my hand. And don't worry if you make these traps close. Honestly, it doesn't affect the plant that much. But if you can avoid it, do actually try and do that. So, like I said, just squeeze around the pot into the palm of your hand. And there we go. Ooh, you can see almost all of them have now closed. Now this is where we can actually figure out what type of soil they have put the plants into, and if the soil is any good. What you want to do is that you want to take your pot, smell it, and see if it smells very, anaerobic. If it smells very dirty and old and gross and like moldy, then you know that it's a very bad type of soil. And this soil actually doesn't have any smell at all, which is a really good sign. So let me just smell the actual soil itself. Yeah, this smells very, very healthy. So this Home Depot that I got the plant from obviously got their plants in the correct soil, and it looks like it is in peat, which is good. But what I can tell you is that there is too much peat. You can tell the soil is a little bit dark. That means that it has actually started to decompose. As you can tell from the bottom here, it becomes kind of like a mat, and it forms like a layer. So this soil is actually way too compact, and obviously you prevent that by using perlite or by using silica sand like they have used. But this silica sand is really, really big, and there's not enough of it. So it's a good thing that we got this plant out now, but there's so many plants in there anyway, it needed to be done. Now what I'm just going to do is that I'm just going to tease the roots a little bit, try and get the soil out of here. These roots are actually very compact. There's roots everywhere, so this will be quite difficult. But just continue to try and tease it away. Now some of you guys may be wondering, when is the best time to repot your Venus flytrap? Well, the best time to repot them is in the middle to the end of winter or the beginning of spring. That's because this is when the plant is, asleep, they're dormant, but it is starting to wake up, starting to grow again for their next growing season. And that is generally the best time. For me, right now, it's summer. It's the worst time to actually repot them in summertime, because they're actively growing, it's their growing season. But I know that you guys need to know how to repot your plants because, you know, in the northern part of the world, it is winter. So it's the best time for you, the worst time for me. Look at that, guys. There's a bug in here. I don't know what type of bug that is. Hopefully that's focusing. Damn, that's not a good sign. I hope that this thing isn't infested. Imagine we're just digging into like their little house and there's tons and tons of these little bugs eating our Venus flytrap roots. That would really, really suck. You know, I'm finding this very, very difficult to actually get through all the soil because, as I said, the roots are so densely packed. If you put this whole chunk of soil into water and tease it in the water, the soil actually comes apart much easier because the water obviously pushes it all away from itself and whatever. So that does help some people, but I don't really like that method because I don't want to have to deal with random pieces of soil floating around in different spots everywhere. I'd rather just pull them all out like this, and you know, maybe I will damage some roots by doing it this way. It's not that big of a deal, but you know, it's up to you guys. Okay, so it looks like I've kind of pulled out as much soil as I can. The next thing that I will have to do is just tear into this big mass here. That's very, very easy to do. It may be a little bit stressful for some of you guys because you might kill some roots, you might break a rhizome, but let's hope that we don't do that now, guys. Let's hope that we don't break a rhizome, we don't destroy any plants, because obviously we all want our plants to grow well. I want mine to grow well too, so let's try and split this rhizome apart without killing anything. You're just gonna grab each side of your rhizome and pull. Just get this old leaf out the way, it's annoying. So let's try it, guys. Ooh, it's very, very tight. I hope that if you don't break into the rhizome itself, I hope you aren't breaking it. Okay, let's just get this little guy out the way first. He has come apart. Check that. His mother has eaten him. The mother has him inside of his mouth. Okay, let's get that one out the way. If you don't know what a rhizome is this white fleshy bit here. This is where the Venus flytrap stores all of its energy. That's where it grows from. And yeah, if we break this thing in half, you could seriously kill your plants. So be very, very careful. We still have like another 100 inside of this little pile here. So let's continue doing this. Looks like we're almost through. Oh, okay. There we go, guys. We have split it up into 2 parts. We just have to do that now a couple more times, and let's hope that we don't kill the plants. You know, I kind of think that they originally had this plant in like a little pellet or something like that. I'm not sure what the word is right now, but you just have it in a small little pellet like this, and you put that pellet into a pot like this. I think that's what's going on here. That is probably why the roots are so thick, and the reason why the soil here is so compressed. And that would really make a lot of sense because obviously these guys don't really grow like this. They don't grow that compact, only in the center. I think that's what they've done here, guys. It's eating its babies. And there we go. So there we go, guys. We have successfully removed all of the plants from each other. I think that was something like 9 plants. Now, what I will show you is actually how to pot each one of these guys up. So you take a little pot, just like this one here, and I will be repotting it over this little tray here. I don't want to mix this soil with that soil because that is old soil. And you just lay the bottom with your mix and you press this bottom layer nice and tightly up against the bottom of the pot so that this layer makes really, really good contact with the water that will be touching these holes here. You're just gonna fill up your pots with the soil and then you're gonna put your plant in. So let me show you how that goes. I generally put some soil on 3 corners. I put in here, here, and here. There's a little space. I put the plant there and I fill it up. So let me show you exactly how that's done. So there we go. I've done 3 corners. This one a little bit less. But now you take your little Venus flytrap. Oh, let me just fix that. I like to make sure that the soil is kind of like to halfway in the pot, so that when you put the plant up against this corner, the plant will be in the middle of the pot. Hope that makes sense. You'll see now exactly what I mean. You take your little plant, put it right up against that wall that you just created, take some soil, fill up that gap just like that. Make sure that you push the soil up against the plant, not as tight as the first bottom layer, but fairly tight, so that there is good contact, but not too tight that, you know, obviously water just can't go through there, the roots can't grow or anything like that. Just like fairly well packed down, so that if you turn it upside down, nothing falls out. Your plant is now in the middle of the pot. There is soil all up against its roots, everywhere else is covered, and you just have a small little gap here to fill up. There is our first little Venus flytrap, all potted up. I'll bring you guys back for the big pots because it's a little bit different, but same concept. See you in a bit. So here we are, guys. I am now back, obviously, and we have potted up 5 of our small little plants. Now there is a little bit of a difference that happens when it is in a much bigger pot, and you have to make sure that you watch the rhizome a little bit more. When the plants are smaller, you can really put them quite deep in the pot because their little rhizomes are very long. But you see, the bigger a plant gets, the inverted commas, shorter the rhizome gets. If you see here, this rhizome is very thick and wide, and it is not as long as this smaller plant here. He just ate his mother now. Look at that, guys. These plants are ruthless. So when the plants are a little bit bigger, you're gonna hold up the plant to the wall like you normally do, but you need to make sure that the rhizome is below ground and that the growth is coming up out of the ground. You do not want the rhizome above the soil surface. That would mean that the plants would look like that from the surface, and it's that far deep into the soil. Let me just cover this up and you guys can get a better look at how deep it is. So you may see the rhizome is just there and it's just covered. There's no white that is visible. It is mainly red and greens that are visible. And that means that this rhizome is underneath the ground more than enough. It is a good height. Because if you have it too high up out of the ground, that means that the plant has to try and grow in. The plants will not be very safe and protected from bugs and the wind and the light on the rhizome, and will spend a lot of energy just trying to grow back down. And if you plant it too deep, the plant can actually rot away because there's too much water on the crown of the plant, and these little traps, developing traps, will have to go much further out to actually reach the sunlight. So they'll use more energy, and the plant can definitely die like that. So it is more of a problem when they're older, as I said, but that is something that you have to make sure that you watch. So what I will do now is I will finish putting up these 2, and I will bring you guys back so I can give you more information on how to actually look after these guys as soon as you have finished repotting them. They do need to be looked after a little bit differently, a little bit more care in some cases, but I will bring you guys back and talk about that in a bit. Bye. Okay guys, so obviously I am back now to explain to you how to look after these guys as soon as you've finished repotting them. So this kind of depends on your plant. If you just recently got your plant, the care will be slightly different to if you just got it shipped to you in the post. We will just look at 2 or 3 cases. The first case we'll look at as if you've been growing your plants and you got it from a good nursery and the plant was growing really, really well, just like my plants were. If you got your plants like that and you just repotted it, the best thing for you to do is simply put it back where it was growing beforehand. Put it right aside in the sun, give it lots of water like you normally do. It would generally be dormancy time because that is the best time for you to actually be repotting. So it should be dormancy time for you. So make sure that you are obviously giving it its dormancy and you're giving it its normal dormancy care. The next thing would be if you have just recently got a plant that is potted. So that means that you might have gone to a big box store, you bought the plant there, it wasn't looking so good. You are brand new to having this specific plant. Now obviously if the plant looks bad, it will be slightly more care than if it looks good. If it looks good, it'll be the exact same thing as I just described. But if your plant looks bad, then there comes some differences. If your plant doesn't look very good, if it looks bad, you have to ensure that it is in the right soil. That is why you're actually watching this video, so you know how to look after your plant. Make sure it is in the right soil so that it obviously doesn't die from nutrient burn or something like that. Also make sure that you're giving it the right water. And if your plant is very long and stretchy, it may be searching for light. So you will need to acclimate that Venus flytrap to light. That means you give it about 2 weeks in a bright area. After those 2 weeks, you move it into somewhere that's brighter for 2 weeks. After that, move it to somewhere even brighter for 2 weeks until you eventually build up and get the plant used to being direct, full sunlight. Obviously, if it is winter time and your plant is dormant, then you obviously should rather focus on dormancy care rather than growth care. And I do have videos on that if you guys are interested in that. Now the next thing would be if you have recently got your plant and it's been in the mail, this plant could come bare root. Now, obviously, once again, there's a spectrum. The plant could have arrived, it was shipped yesterday, it got you today. If the plant is looking really healthy, exactly the same thing as I described earlier, put it straight outside. But in many cases, your plant may have spent a week up to a month inside of the mail. In that case, put it in soil, bag it up. If you can see that it is sickly, bag it up and keep it somewhere that is bright, but there's no direct sun. Because you need to get this plant used to being in soil, used to growing again, and prevent it from actually dying from shock. Because it should have come to you in a plastic bag. If you take it out of the plastic bag immediately and put it straight outside, it's being used to 100% humidity, now you're giving it maybe 40% humidity, that is a big shock, the plant will die. So you need to get it used to growing in soil again, then slowly make bigger and bigger holes over the coming weeks so that the actual amount of air flowing in and out of that bag increases until the plant is actually used to growing in whatever the natural humidity is around you. And you do the same thing with the sunlight, as I just explained, until you have eventually moved your plant outside. I have done videos on these before, and I will do more videos on this in the future, so make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Sorry, you guys can probably hear the rain outside. It's been raining quite a lot lately, but yeah, anyway, if you guys have any questions, do make sure to message me on Instagram or Facebook or even in the comments. I really am happy to help you guys out. And also, if you are looking for pre-mixed soil, I am going to be selling this pre-mixed soil, but only to people in Australia. So do let me know if that's what you're looking for. I know that it does help, especially beginners. I know when I first started getting into these plants, I was too scared to mix the soil myself, and I didn't know if I was getting the right soils. So if you are looking for that, do let me know. But I do hope that this video was helpful for you guys. So if it was, remember to leave a like, and I'll see you in the next episode.